Morning, everybody, and I am super excited to bring you three gorgeous ladies from all over the world. Michelle Carpenter from
Hi.
Nelson, New Zealand. Hi, Michelle.
Hi, Jelly.
And Shahira Galal from Egypt, Cairo. So exotic.
Hi, Joe.
Hi, Shahira.
So excited.
And Laura Weaver from New Orleans. Is that correct?
Yes.
Hi.
Well, yeah, it's close to New Orleans. It's close enough to for everybody in the world to know where it is. But in the US, I live in Lafayette.
Lafayette. Very, very nice. Now, this is the very first of a new series that I've started called The Panel. And I'm going to have different people on the panel at different times and different combinations. But these three ladies, I think, are simply delicious. And you are going to be blown away by their skills, their abilities, their gifts, call it whatever you like. And it's just going to be a very casual, open forum where we all have a chat. So I wonder if we could start with you, Shahira. And girls, please feel free. If Shahira says something and you want to ask Shahira a question, just say, oh, wow, what about this? What about that? So it's not like anybody's in charge. We're all exactly the same here. And this is just like having a cup of coffee and a good old chat. So Shahira, if you'd like to lead us off and just tell everybody, something about yourself.
All right. Okay, so I live in Cairo, Egypt. Right now, my main profession is I'm a hypnosis practitioner. I practice introspective hypnosis and part therapy, which is another therapy technique. And I'm a writer. I write novels. I love literature. This is my passion. And what else did I do? And I'm a rower, so I wake up at 4 a.m. every day. I hit the Nile and I row for a couple of hours, and then I start my day.
Excellent, very disciplined.
Yep, very.
And you've never met Laura, and you haven't, you've met Laura once before, but no, you don't really know Laura, and you definitely don't know Michelle.
Yeah, but I feel, Jill, I feel this kind of things. It's like meeting families, meeting far cousins that you haven't seen, you always heard of, but you haven't seen yet in your life. So when I meet the girls in some kind of meeting or a panel, whatever, and I was like, oh my God, where have you been? I haven't heard of you in the last 40 years. It's like knowing somebody, but it's like, oh, we just met, but I've known her all my life. Yeah,
exactly. It's so comfortable, isn't it?
Yes.
Now, Michelle, thanks Shahira. Michelle, what about yourself?
Hi, Jelly. Hi, ladies. I feel absolutely honored to be here with you. Jill has spoken so highly of all of you continuously, which is really, really beautiful. And I sort of have to pinch myself and go, like, what am I doing here? Like, what do you mean I'm with these beautiful, beautiful women? So to talk about a little bit about myself and what I do, I am a medium and a grief and trauma intuitive, and I have in the last year started channeling beautiful, beautiful angelic light beings called the Council of Eight. And I normally close my eyes and they channel directly through me, and I never know what's going to come through. But I feel like I'm an everyday kind of woman who has abilities, and I feel like everybody can develop their abilities. And this is something that we were obviously just discussing beforehand, before you put us together, is that I really am a firm knower of, I look at it like we all started with a seed of being, no, hold on. We've all come from light, and we all developed inside of our mother's stomachs, and not one of us inside of our mother's stomachs, or did our mother have to say to us at the time, okay, now you need to grow fingers. Now, baby, now you need to grow hair. We just came from this beautiful source, divine, whatever we want to call it. And based on my story in this lifetime, I really know that if we work through whatever we've got to work through, whether it be patterns, whether it be our trauma, whether it be our programmings, we can develop our own abilities, and we all have our own knowing. And that's what's part of, I feel, my purpose in this lifetime, is to help everybody know that, whoever I connect with. And I'm always walking with people on their journeys. And it's about self-love and knowing that we all have an ability of some sorts. Yeah, I just want to help people find their joy and their inner light and their inner bliss. Like, that's part of what I feel another part of my purpose is in this lifetime. And again, I just feel so honored being here. I'm trying to calm myself down and talk slowly because I'm so ungrounded at the moment. My energy is buzzing with all of you. So if I go off on a tangent, like I'm like a squirrel, I'm like, just one of you bring me back, okay?
We sure will.
Yeah.
Thanks so much,
yeah.
Michelle.
Pleasure.
Laura.
I'm Laura Weaver, and I practice introspective hypnosis, and I do sessions with people all over the world. And I do I do channeled writing. I wake up in the middle of the night and pick up your pen and begin writing. And it's not as frequent as it used to be, but lately I'm also watching my gifts expand a little bit more, doing some light language, that sort of thing. But mostly I do introspective hypnosis, and I love watching people have their breakthroughs with that. It's exciting. So that's what I do.
Excellent. So I'm just going to delve straight in and tell you what happened yesterday. So as you know, we're busy building a house at the moment, and I spent the day staining wood. And I realized I actually quite like it. I complain about it, but I actually quite like it because it forces me to be still. And still with my thoughts. And I started thinking about all the clients that I've had that want to know their life purpose, want to know where their abilities are. And Shahira and I all of us were talking about that just a little bit, a few minutes ago, about how so many people that she works with, that we all work with, are what are termed ordinary humans going about our business. And so many wanting to be what they would term like one of us, with slightly different abilities. And then I thought about it, and I thought, wow, actually, I remembered what Tabash said to us in Peru, Blair, and he said, you are God. But so many of us are looking on the outside for God, praying to a God. And that's where the disconnect comes, because you're not going inside. And then I thought, that is why they keep on saying meditate, 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 which is so important, for no other reason that is when you connect with your God, that spark of who you are, which is of the light. So anybody that's listening today, if you want to know how to be like a Michelle or a Shahira or a Laura or anybody else, and I'll get into that with you, Shahira, because Shahira has a beautiful story of thinking, don't we all just see dead people walking around? She just assumed everybody could. But she's, quite unique. A lot of us, though, develop these so-called skills or abilities at a later stage, often through trauma or accidents, grief, lots of different things that happen to us. So that's what I wanted to say to people today, is that never forget who you actually are. You are incredible. Sometimes you don't even have to do anything. You don't have to be the medium, the clairvoyant, the introspective hypnotherapist. You just have to hold that light and shine wherever you are, whatever you're actually doing. So Shahira, if you could just tell us about, how did you know suddenly that you were different when you just assumed everybody could see dead people?
Somebody told me that, hey, what are you saying? I was born as a clairvoyant, and I could sense energy all the time. I could hear the plants, I could hear animals. I can see, I don't call them spirit, I call them people on the other side, because they're just people still. And I thought that everybody does this. Everybody can do this. It's just very normal. It's business as usual. It's very mundane, so we don't talk about it. You don't talk about your hair, you don't talk about your nose, you don't talk about your ears. So why would you talk about this? It's very normal. And then at the age of 30, I had a mentor, and I was going into his office, and I'm like, okay, so you need to change the location of the plant up in the office, in the next to the door. And he said, why do you want me to do this? I'm like, okay, the plant is so annoyed because people bumping into it, going in there. And she's very annoyed, and she was like, screaming, very frustrated, you need to move this plant from that location. And he was like, okay, all right, hang on for a second. Who said what? Like, that plant out there, what are you talking to me about? Just go and move her. And he was like, okay, so all right, talk slowly. And okay, so why? And he told me that this particular plant was in a quieter place, and he just moved her into this new place a few days ago, and she's not used to this noise. That's why she's complaining so much. And then we had a talk, and then I discovered at that moment, and on that night, on that day, that people normally don't hear plants. They don't see the energy around. They don't see the color of other people's auras. They don't. And it took me a few weeks to understand, so how do you live? It's like somebody just told you that not everybody can see with their own eyes.
So then
Like,
other people, how do they live? Because it's like you've got the GPS, so you can navigate beautifully on this road of life. How do they?
And I felt like, oh my God, that must be scary. So it's like driving and you're blindfolded and the road is dark. So how do you do it, guys? It must be very scary. And it hit me like it's like I didn't feel I'm different. I felt compassion, huge compassion for others at that moment. It was not, I was still the same, I'm still me. And I'm like, okay, so really, seriously, how do you do it?
So did you start holding sessions for people, or did you just chat to friends with messages? How did you start?
No, it took me a few years before I started doing this, because I thought that, maybe people would perceive it as a weird thing. Okay, so how they gonna look at me? I was in corporate back then, so it was like, that could never happen. It's like very masculine, professional environment. So that was not into my mind. I was not wired this way at that time. And it took me a few years through my past to understand it's okay to be yourself. It's okay to talk about it. And I met others who have the same, or different abilities, same ground. And I felt like, oh, I'm home. That's family. That's so nice.
Yeah.
And yes, it took a few years to come out of the shell and say, okay, hey guys, this is what I do, and this is what you can do too if you want to.
So, what advice would you give somebody who's just on the path, starting out, and would like to start? What would be the best thing, do you think?
Be present. Be here. Be now. Be present. And everything will fall in place. You don't need anything but to be here, and that's it. To connect yourself. Being here meaning that you're gonna connect yourself. And when you connect yourself, all these abilities will come out. And if they don't, who cares? You're here, you're living your life, you're enjoying this moment.
It's because not everybody can be the baker or the nurse or the brain surgeon, so everybody's got a job to do. So if everybody was a brain surgeon, who's going to be the patient? So maybe the four of us do the jobs we do so that we can go to them and get our bread, get the dress made, go and get the car fixed. It's just another job, isn't it?
Exactly. Like clients walk to my office and say, okay, so how do I get to my subconscious? How do I do this? How do I do this? I'm like, relax. That's my job. That's why you're here. Oh, what you need is to relax. That's your job, is to relax and be present. And that's it. This is all what you need to do. It's like going to a brain surgeon and ask them, okay, so what exactly are you going to do to my brain? I want you to explain everything that you're going to do into the surgery. And the surgeon would say, just relax on the table and let me do my job. You know what I mean? So just be present and relax and everything will fall in place.
Jill, when you think about that, what's so surprising to me is when you put people under hypnosis and they discover what their gifts are, it's so profoundly different. The uniqueness of every single human being's goal and gifts and their purpose here on life, it is so specifically different, I find, for everybody. So, maybe our job is to be flow the information through with the channeling. That's what one thing I do is I flow the information through because that's my specific job. But I've had people that their jobs are phenomenal. It's to hold the light in the space that they are. They're influencers in certain ways. They are amazing with their animals. They're phenomenal cooks. And by them feeding people, then their light is touching other people and it's comforting them and it's giving those people what they need. So we all, whether we know it or not, we are doing our purpose. Whether you're like, well, that's what I'm supposed to be doing. People are like, but what am I supposed to be doing? And it's like exactly what you're doing. Exactly what you're doing. So many people are already doing what their purpose is. If you're doing it out of a place of love, if you're doing it from your heart, if you're doing it to make the world a better place, if you're doing it to serve others, then you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, whatever color that looks like. If you're in your church very active, delivering meals to the elderly, or if you are helping people clean up from hurricanes, or if you are taking care of the babies, or you're taking care of the animals, or you're a gardener, that's what your gift is, and that's who you are. And people want it to look a lot different than what it is, but you're doing what you're supposed to be doing if you're doing it from a place of love with your heart open like this. And sometimes people just want it to look a little bit more magical than it looks. But what they don't realize is they're not seeing all the different levels of your gift of kindness to go bring the meals to the seniors, what that does in their world and everybody else that they affect and everybody else that's affected by what you do. You don't see the ripple effect of your act of kindness. And that's your purpose, to start that ripple going. And then that ripple will continue out through the world. So I think for people looking for this special gift, look at what you're doing currently right now. And if it's from your heart, it's a very special gift. And it spreads that beautiful love and connection that we're all trying to do at this time.
Oh, I love you, Laura.
A lot of times hypnosis people will go, well, I am doing exactly what my gift is. It's like, yes, they just get to see it and acknowledge it and see it from a different perspective in the introspective hypnosis, and it looks ordinary, and then they realize how spectacular it is what they're doing to other people's lives. So people don't have to channel, and they don't have to be a medium, and they don't have to have special gifts, because they already have their gifts. Their gifts are innate. So that's something to realize.
You know what? It gives people permission as such. One of the ladies that came for introspective hypnosis with me, she really wanted to know her purpose. And the last life that she had, she was an Indian lady living on a big plantation, running a large family, and she'd been there since birth. She'd never gone anywhere. She'd never traveled. She hadn't been outside the village. That was her life. This life, she said, but I can never get a partner long enough to commit. I might have 3 years or 5 years, but then it never really, gets to be anything else. What's going on here? And they said, because you've chosen that way, because you only had one man for 700 million years, and this time you want to have fun. And if you had a permanent partner, you wouldn't be able to travel and do everything that you want to do. Your whole purpose in this life is to have fun. She was so thrilled that she knew that it gave her permission, and she didn't have to conform to society thinking, you've got to get married, you've got to have babies. There is no formula, one size fits all, right? Everybody's different. And so she went, well, I'm 50 or whatever. I haven't had kids. I haven't got a husband. I haven't got this. And wow, actually, I'm okay. I'm just fine being me. So thank you, Laura. I love that. Michelle.
Well, I'm going to build on what Laura had to say, and it's something that I teach myself and my kids and my husband and my clients. Well, I'll say to them, for me, energy is energy. And what I mean by that is, we're conditioned that it's something that I know growing up in South Africa. We grew up with a very clear statement, give and take, give and take. And I've really looked at it as, no, if you're giving, as Laura says, with a good heart, you receive. And that for me is energy. So I will say to a client in the morning, if you want to be of service, it's as simple as, hey, if you go to a coffee shop or you go to a restaurant, connect with the person that's serving you, or connect with the barista. And look at them, even though they're busy and they might be making 5 cups of coffee, look at them and say, thank you. That in that moment is a moment of an energetic connection, heart to heart. Thank you for making this amazing cup of coffee. And then that's the ripple effect that will continue, because you're going to make in that moment, you've given of yourself, but that person is receiving and they give back to you in that beautiful connection. Because I think so often, and as an example, last night, my daughter was singing on stage for a school production, and my son had his cell phone. And I realized as a mother in that moment, I had to take his cell phone away, because it's so easy for so many kids and most of us to be sitting on our phones, going into a space where, oh, here's Geraldine.
I think she's coming in.
Yeah. So going into a space where, going to go sit and wait for somebody or wait for a friend. And it's so easy to pull out our cell phones as opposed to sitting. And as Shahira said, just being present. Being present is just sitting there and just lifting your head and looking and noticing who's around, looking at the plants.
And even as you're walking down the street, just give that person a smile. Give them a nod. You don't know what kind of day they've had, what they've been through. Look them in the eyes and smile. And because we're so disconnected right now with the mask and everybody isolating, people are lonely. They just need a heart connect. That one heart connect can change their whole frequency. And then everybody that they touch from that point forward, it's a little bit better. Those kind of gifts are just gifts that you have to give.
Yes.
So it doesn't have to be special.
Yes. And it's something that I'm still learning. Shahira said it profoundly. It's that being present. And I sometimes I have 15 different hats that I'm worn in. I'm wife, and then I'm mother, and then I'm Michelle the therapist, and then I'm Michelle, the dog walker, and then I'm Michelle, the chef. And sometimes I just have to say to myself in the moment, whew, okay, Michelle, just take a big breath. You're here right now. Because it's so easy to go off on a tangent for me specifically. Like I've really had to teach myself to be in the moment. And because I have many squirrel moments, and whether that's a programming or my personality, I don't know. I'm still trying to figure that out. Maybe one of you can help me. But it's just like, okay, just take it easy. Just learn to slow down. I come from a background of being on an intense pace. And I think that what I'm realizing is there's no right or wrong in this life. It's something that, and what I'm loving about these times specifically, that we're all, for me, it's a privilege living in these times, because we all get to take back and go with inside ourselves and go, okay, well, my heart is still beating. Okay, what is my head saying? And I'm choosing at this moment in my life to not go down wormholes. It's so easy to go down so many different wormholes with information that is sent or that we receive on a daily basis. But I go back into, this is my way of learning and teaching myself to stay present. Okay, Michelle, your heart's beating. I'm here right now. Like I'm looking at all of you. I'm still thinking, oh my God, pinch yourself, Michelle. But like I'm here right now. And it's almost not tangible for me, the energy that we feel amongst each other, but it's so pure at the same time. And I think that's what I'd love to say to everybody. Where do you have these pure moments? Where do you have these beautiful heart connection moments? Because it's like Laura said, it's walking past somebody. I mean, Shahira's gift is phenomenal, to be able to see the plants vibrating. And that is something that, when we're consciously not around and we're just unconscious and we're just living in a space of bliss, that's where those beautiful, beautiful synchronicities happen, and those beautiful, miraculous moments. But it's letting go. It's letting go of what we think the way it's meant to be, or how we've been taught it's meant to be.
Michelle, that's amazing. And also, especially with what Shahira said, because in about 2013, I was walking through a park in Wanaka. And as you all know, this place is, hello, Geraldine, welcome.
Hello, how are you? How's everybody?
Hi, Geraldine.
Hi, great to connect with you here.
So, Geraldine, who do you know here?
I'm just realizing I know Laura.
Yes. How are you?
Yes,
Good to
wonderful.
see
Great
you.
to connect with you.
Yes.
And sorry, go for it, Laura.
I first met Geraldine. I went to I think it was San Francisco. Was it San Francisco? You and Alba had something together. And I got on the van coming from the airport, and the only people in the van were Alba and her assistant and I. And I met Alba, and then I met Geraldine, and then you and I did a session. You did a session for me not too long ago.
I remember. Very
See you
good.
again, yes.
Wonderful.
Yes.
And Shahira, weren't you at a similar do or something, you two? Or in a gathering?
I think we attended, me and Geraldine attended a meeting with Alba, and we chatted a little at the side. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so attracted to your energy. And Geraldine would say, yeah.
I remember now. I remember. Yeah. Sorry, I forget sometimes. It's so wonderful to see you as well. And Michelle, I don't know Michelle. No, Michelle, have we met? I'm embarrassed now to say that. I'm not sure.
No, we haven't.
Okay.
It's okay. We've met on the internet.
Okay, very nice. Wonderful.
Hi. I live in New Zealand, and it's a pleasure to meet you. Yeah, an honor. Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me on this wonderful panel. It's definitely an honor.
So, Geraldine, do you know what these girls do?
Not all of them. No, I'm not sure. Please, what do you do?
Quickly give Geraldine
I'm an introspective hypnosis practitioner.
Beautiful.
I know.
And I'm the same. I do the same. Yes. introspective hypnosis.
But both of you are more than that.
Oh, and I do.
Yeah, for now.
I write, and Shahira does as well. So
Writers,
I do
nice.
channeled writing. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, beautiful.
And
I'm a
Michelle,
spiritual medium and a grief and trauma intuitive and a channeler and
Wow.
and a vibrational healer. So I love to work with music. Music is my absolute bliss, of helping shift stuff in the body.
Brilliant.
and Shahira also is a medium and a channel.
Wow, amazing. So we're amongst
And an
friends
author.
here that are
So all these
traveling in the
titles, and now
other
you can tell.
dimensions.
Yeah, for a long time, it's hard to find somebody that was like us, huh?
That's so wonderful. Yeah.
And Geraldine, if you tell the other girls in the audience what it is that you do as well, so that everybody's up to speed.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a certified hypnotherapist as well. And I primarily focus on something called DNA reprogramming. I'm a Qigong master. I am a pranic energy healer, quantum energy healer, and I'm owner of Bay Area Meditation here in San Francisco. So I teach corporate meditation programs as well as individual programs. And I also run a support group for people that are having interdimensional contact. I teach, I speak, I lecture. I'm currently writing my book. So several things.
That is going to be interesting.
I also have a startup. I have a startup called Higher Healing, where it's a platform and directory for healers like you guys. So I'd love to invite you to come on that at some point. That would be wonderful.
That'll be awesome.
And for people that are listening, tell them about what does your site do for them if they're looking for a healer. They go to your site. Is that how it works?
Exactly. Yeah. So people that are looking for healers, we really try to vet the healers in that, we understand that they are in alignment and aware of what they're doing. In the spiritual community, it's you meet a lot of different kinds of modalities. And so we really want to know that the work is coming from a place that is centered and in alignment with the best for all, and that's kind of where we try to connect with healers that are on that level, that are here to do service for the highest good. And we have these healers on the platform that can feature their work. They can have videos of their work. They are offered to do interviews on several platforms and have those kinds. So they get very well known in different circles of healing. And so our clients come and they connect with them. And when they're looking for someone that does something specific like QHHT or anything like that, they know to connect with you. And it's like the perfect place to just see everything about you all in one place and book sessions with you there, as well as events.
Okay, so the healing is quite broad.
Yes, absolutely. There's absolutely everything. Mm-hmm.
I'm just closing this here. There's just too much light coming in. Sorry.
But where we want to focus is on more spiritual, more in-depth kind of healing. It's not so much massage therapy and yoga. It's more, people that are doing work like you guys, like hypnotherapy, but on that level that is very spiritual, that is supportive of the energetic body, the multidimensional body, and provides support for those things. Because a lot of people are looking for that. And sometimes they go to a regular hypnotherapist and they're not able necessarily to get that kind of attention because there's a lack of understanding of that. So this is a little bit more specifically for those that are ready to kind of look at, a little bit broader perspective of their healing.
I love that. I think and what is it actually called?
It's called Higher Healing.
Higher Healing.
Mm-hmm, and right now we are just finishing the development of a new website for that. So it'll be out at the end of this month, beginning of next month, a brand new domain for that. Mm-hmm.
Nice.
And that's international, Geraldine, all over the world.
Exactly. Yeah, we want to connect the world. We want it to be a place, a hub. It's also a social platform. You can connect with other healers and clients also get to connect with each other there. So it's really just a place for you to come together. You get information about the kind of healing work. You can offer write-ups on the kind of work that you do and provide it there and have a global platform, in other words. Because, I just find that it's so hard for us sometimes to connect with good healers. Like we have a hard time finding that, unless you hear it by, by word of mouth, of course. But those that are a little bit more disconnected from the world have a hard time finding a place. If you want to find a shaman, you go to Yelp, and maybe there's one or two shamans that have thought of putting their listing there, but it's very hard to find something like that. So hoping that this will be a next step in that, and kind of create kind of a global unity for all of those healers.
And then at least that's somebody that you've actually vetted, so that people feel secure, that there's no charlatans.
Yeah, well, I mean, the vetting process is very much, it's a profound connection with the soul. I am also psychic, right? So, you can see the multidimensional body, and I have other people that are working with us. We get sessions with the healers, and we get to experience one-on-one what the healing is like, to understand better what they're offering, and also to be able to express that to the world. Just to make sure that we're in alignment with people that are in alignment with what's good for the whole, not just service to self, which sometimes tends to be the problem sometimes in some of these healing circles. Yeah,
the ego and the arrogance takes over, and that I think is huge, really, really huge. And Michelle, maybe then you can tell Geraldine about the kind of healing and how you work, and now how you're connecting to the Council of Eight. Isn't that changing things for you?
Yes, it is. So the way I work is when I'm doing a one-on-one, I tune into a client's body, and I'm able to feel into the unconscious parts of their bodies that they might not be aware of. So when they're telling me a story, I feel into, they might be saying something like, I feel I'm like on not the right path with a partner at the moment. And I'll get guided and shown that in their bodies, their liver starts to flare up, or their gallbladder. And I'm really quite particular in terms of where I'm taken into the body and where the energy moves as they are sharing their stories with me. And then I'll say to them, I'm being shown right now, this is something when you were 3 years old or 4 years old, and this has got to do with your dad, or this has got to do with when you were birthed, or this has got to do with a past life. A lot of times past lives come into it. And that's where the unconscious energy that they're not even aware of, but there may be a moment where I'll say, okay, feel your heart starting to beat really fast, and it feels like something is pushing down in your chest. And they'll say to me, yes, it feels like I'm drowning right now. I say, okay, this is where a past life would come into. And I'll say, let's just sit with the story. This is what I'm being shown or guided. And for me, it's very much about allowing themselves to feel vulnerable in the moment. And in the work that I do in terms of working with trauma or grieving, it's allowing the tears. And as soon as they allow the tears to come, the body sort of unwinds and it lets go. And I'm really, really good at holding space in that moment. And sometimes I'll say to a client, these tears are golden, and I might even cry with them sometimes. And it's such a pure, beautiful moment for me in terms of where they allow that for themselves. And when the body's allowed and it's unwound, then I have the ability to feel when their heart contracts or when their heart expands. And I'm also noticing recently where I can see the patterns, almost like a matrix that I see in the body, where the pattern flows from, it could be from the big toe up until, what we would term the meridians. I can see where the meridian is not in flow. And that's where I find music is incredibly healing. Like my guides would start singing a song to me in the back of my head, and I'm like, okay. And then I think it's a song, but then as soon as I go into my playlist, I'm shown, okay, play that one, and I completely trust. And in the song, there'll be words that will resonate with the client, and then they just allow even more. Where my channeling comes into it is, I'm connected to beautiful, beautiful, beautiful angelic beings, and they've turned themselves or call themselves the Council of Eight, which is complete infinity for me. And they're ascended masters. They've shown me that they've once walked the earth planes, And I close my eyes and they come directly through. And it's just something that I've learned to be okay with. Like, I know I can do it with my eyes open, but I just feel like I take out the personality of Michelle and they come directly through, and their guidance is so simple. They're funny, which is what I love. They sort of often will say, yep, if we had eyes, we'd roll our eyes in the back of our heads right now because you humans are so funny. You make life so complicated. And so yeah, they often come through as well in a session. I always ask, especially if it's a first-time client and they haven't booked a channeling session, would you like me to channel? Because sometimes I don't have the answers. A client would ask me something, I'll say, I actually can't answer that. Can we please ask the counselor Bate? And they just show in pictures and they just make it so simple for a client sitting opposite me, which is what I love. So those are the different ways. And when I'm out in the field, I never know what comes in. I completely and utterly trust that what comes through is for the learning and for the bumping up of the vibration of that client. And myself, I suppose, because I just feel like we're all interconnected.
Of course,
So that's pretty much how I work. But I never know. And I've just realized, Michelle, just let go. Just completely trust what comes through. And it's mind-blowing when we're out in the field. It's phenomenal. I love it.
Wow. That's beautiful. Wonderful.
Thank you.
That's amazing work.
Thank you.
Oh, she does phenomenal work. I absolutely love it. Just love it. And you know, we were chatting to Laura earlier, and she was saying about how all these clients always come and ask about their purpose. And the work that Laura's doing now through this hypnosis is that, Laura, won't you tell them the story about the lady, and then you were doing something about singing her song?
Oh, yes. So a couple of weeks ago, we went to Arkansas because I wanted to get crystals. I wanted some crystals for my office. And I know that Arkansas has a huge crystal vortex there. So I was very excited to go there. So we go to this place to dig for crystals. And my friend, the guy takes us up in the woods and he points to the ground and he goes, you see, the crystals are in the vein going this way in the ground in the woods. And I'm like, okay, this is going to be a little bit more challenging than I thought, So we have crowbars and stuff to dig the crystal veins. And I was like, I don't know about this, but my friend and I were sitting there and I just kept hearing this song in my head and hearing the song. And the other two girls had walked away. And so I told my friend, I said, I have a song. Can I sing it? And she said, yes, let me hear it. So I started singing. And then I stopped and I said, I'm not sure what that is. And she turned around and she goes, so why is it making me cry my eyes out? And I said, okay, I have it now. So I started singing the song even more and longer and just settled down into it. And it was so interesting because we were sitting there on the ground in the woods, and then the wind started just kind of swirling around, and she's just crying and I'm singing and the wind is swirling. And then here comes some cicadas that sat by us and started making their sound chiming in. And this bird came in this tree and started chiming in. And we were just in this, we were just going through this healing process. And then finally the song was over and I stopped, and all these leaves just kind of fell on us. And it was just a really beautiful moment in the forest. And then what I found was that it was just her song. She forgot who she was. She was having so much, issues, that she was filled with fear, and she just needed some release. And by singing this song, it helped her remember and realign who she was again. So it was really very cool. So that's been going on a lot for me as well. So I just let it come out when it comes out. So, but it was an interesting experience because it just happened a couple of weeks ago. And since then, I'm singing all these songs all over the place. So it's a new thing. And actually, Alba did a session with me, and it was that it's seventh dimensional, and it's light language coming through that you sing. That it's just another gift that's coming through in this kind of energy now, just to help another healing modality, if you will, help people realign their frequencies. So.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, at this time, as we're moving and progressing and evolving collectively, it's like this whole concept, the cliche word, right? The veil is thinning, but it really means that we're like activating so many abilities of ours, and we're going to have so many by the end of the next few years that, you know, we're activating the five senses, and in those five senses, there's so many different kinds of ways of connecting with this other worlds or the other dimensional planes. So it's amazing. It's beautiful to hear that, you know, many are activating that. That's just beautiful.
Yeah, it's very exciting when it happens. At first, you have to go, "Whoa, wait, okay, who's making sure who your audience is first, you know?" And then, and actually, in that moment too, I was in the forest, and all that had just happened, and I was real high energy, and I had an elemental that wanted to come through, and I'm like, "How would you feel if I kind of spoke and channeled?" And she's like, "No, I'm not real cool with that." And I was like, okay. So I couldn't finish giving the rest of the message. So I had to just, you have to know who your people are around you with your gifts as well, too. So,
and it's all about the right time as well.
And sometimes there's ways, maybe don't even say that you're channeling, maybe just kind of put it into the conversation, because, you know, oftentimes information, for those of you that are psychic like this, you know, the information comes at a very timely moment, and sometimes when you miss that opportunity, it'll show up in their life anyway. The message will reach them, whether it's for you or someone else. So if you decide to allow that to be the self, you know, it comes through. It's a message that's meant to be. I always think that there's no coincidences. And when we are opening up, there's a connection between you and the other organism, the other being that's there. And so it's a collective decision on a higher level for some of this information to come through.
Well, the way I brought it back through was when the other two friends walked up, she began to tell them what was going on. And I said, "So, you know, the other message that I was to give you," and then I did tell them what the elements wanted me to talk to them about. So I was able to do it on the back end.
There you go. Yeah.
Because I was like, this is what they were trying to tell you. And so it ended up, you know, getting the message to them. So it was interesting.
Well, this takes me back to a time where I met Jill, and with Jill being also ex-South African and I'd immigrated to New Zealand, it was, I was kind of sitting on the fence with my spirituality. Like I really used to not be sure, and I wanted to sort of be sure, but it scared me. It scared me as to how much was out there. And just as an example, one of my mentors was here from California. We were driving from the hometown I used to live in to Jill's hometown, which is like 45 minutes in the mountain. And I was saying to her, I channeled, and she said to me, this mentor of mine said to me, "Oh, Michelle, be careful, you're not channeling the dark." And I remember thinking, huh? What do you mean there's dark out there? And she was like otherworldly. Well, I was blown away. I was like, she said, "Michelle, make sure you're channeling the Jesus light." And I still remember thinking, there's any, what do you mean there's dark out there? And then I shacked myself. I was like, oh my God, I guess I got to stop channeling because there's dark out there, blah, 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 blah. And then when I met Jill, and then, you know, for those of us who know Jilly, like, man, she's for me on a different level altogether as well. And the stuff that she receives and the information that you receive, Jill, is just phenomenal. And Jill was telling me her stories about, you know, how she discovered certain things, and that scared me even more. I was like, what? There's more out there? But what I came to realize is that it was my time. It's exactly that. It was trusting that it was my time. As much as I was feeling pulled in my humanness, it was my time to know that there's more out there, to bump up myself up in whichever way. And I had to let go of the fear. I had to let go of being scared. And as I let go of being scared, that's where I started trusting myself more. And it's exactly like what we were all saying, is when you let go and you trust that the divine time happens at the divine moment, being in the present, it just is profound.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it really does have to do with your vibrational frequency. I mean, where are you, what are you in resonance with, right? Because when it comes to channeling, I mean, those that are already opening and beginning to channel different things, you're going to connect with every possible thing that is around you if it's in resonance with you. And the thoughts and the emotions are very complex. It's not just the external emotion, it's the subconscious emotion that actually drives what we're co-creating. So if on the outside you're like, oh yeah, you know, I can channel this, but in the bottom there's a deep fear or a doubt in the self or something, you're definitely going to attract something that's in resonance to that. So it's important to be mindful of yourself, to know yourself so well and aware of whatever little shadows and fears and doubts that you have inside so that you can begin to work with those, sit with them, get to know them, and bring them to light so that when you're in the presence of something that wants to come through, it just flows. And it's a learning process. You know, we have to be able to experience everything. I mean, that's what this life is for. It's experience, you know.
Yeah, do your work. That's what I always say.
Do the work. Exactly.
To my client, I want to see, I want to have my third eye open. I want to do like astral travel. I want to do like, oh, they want all this, you know, experiences. But the thing is, do your work first. And then I ask, okay, so why do you want that? Why do you want to have like clear vision? And they say, so when I go to work, I know all these people, what they're thinking, and I attack them before they attack me. And I'm like, okay, so that's why you're not getting it.
Not a good place to channel anything.
That's your blockage right there.
Right.
So this is where we're going to start. So yes, just, you know, it's like, you know, making the way meaning like clearing and cleansing and just letting go, as Geraldine said, just letting go.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. And, you know, just as Geraldine was connecting with us, we were talking about different vibrations and frequencies. And I can't get any light on myself today. And I've realized because the light hasn't to be on me, it's got to be on the 4 girls today. The spotlight has to be on you girls. So I'm just going to be the dark voice in the background, which is just fine. So years ago in 2013, I was walking through a park that I'd walked through many, many times in our ski village. And suddenly my heart filled with such incredible gratitude for the magnificent beauty that we have in this place with the lake and the mountains, and the resonance was so high. And every single plant in that entire park took on a color that I've never seen in my life. And it was almost as if I'd stepped right through into another dimension. And I realized it was because of the gratitude. My resonance had changed. My frequency was in a totally different level. And so therefore, that frequency met me. Now, the second time this happened to me, or the first time rather, was when we first arrived in this place. And I'd had a huge skiing accident, so my leg was healing after an operation. And Greg and I decided to climb a local mountain. And not big mountain climbers, but, you know, just going for a super big walk. And I could see that because he was so fit, he wanted to get going and I was slower. So I said to him, you go, I'm just going to sit here and take my time or just walk a little slower. As I was walking, I felt 3 eyes on me and I felt very uncomfortable, and I turned and there were 3 young bulls looking at me, and my little heart went boof, boof, boof. I got such a shock and I thought, oh no, I've got to get out of the bulls. And these were physical bulls. So I walked much quicker than I thought I even could. It's amazing what fear can do. And I went up about 3 zigzag paths and I found a rock, and I sat on a rock, and it was a summer's day. And the lake was sparkling. It was like it was covered in diamonds, and the sun was out. And once again, I found myself in immense gratitude. And I closed my eyes just to absorb the moment. Remember earlier, you, Michelle and Shahira said, you have to be present. And it's incredible what happens when you're present. So I was so present. And as I closed my eyes and just breathed it in to go, you know, when your chest gets so tight from so much beauty. And when I opened my eyes, from my left to my right were angels as like an amphitheater of angels, and all their wings were fluttering, fluttering and fluttering. And then there was a tunnel of light. And they said, our vibrations that we hold create this tunnel that when people pass over, that is the tunnel that they describe or see. And there we go. Once again, I wasn't even looking for an experience or for nothing. And it just happened. So is that what you mean, Geraldine?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the more that we kind of deprogram any kind of limiting beliefs in us that block us from being open to experiencing the unknown. Because the interesting thing is that all of us here, like we've dealt with the unknown, and we're becoming friends with that in such a way that we're willing to explore, to kind of go into it, maybe sit in that stillness and just see what comes up, right? But a lot of people are still having fears about that. They feel something a little different in the room, they feel a presence, and they feel immediately afraid, so they close off, and then they're not able to explore what that is. But what's happening right now is that the veil is thinning in such a way, we're all moving and evolving, that we are definitely going to be intermingling with these interdimensional aspects of ourselves more so than ever. And so our ability to train ourselves and practice being comfortable with the unknown in all areas, whether it's emotions that are uncomfortable, scenarios, experiencing shocking things that we see outside that we don't agree with, all of those things are training for us to become comfortable with the unknown. And so even within ourselves, and something that's really coming up, and I'd love to hear from you guys as healers, over the past 3 months, really, really dark shadows from people that have been suppressed for a long time are really coming up now to surface. Things that we have kind of been putting in the back burner, not wanting to connect with, have really been surfacing up to be dealt with. And I think that that's kind of the pinnacle moment, that when we get past that, this entire new not new, but the ability to navigate multiple dimensions is available to us. And the interesting thing about that is that we begin to see truths that transcend the limitations of the physical world around us, right? For example, we begin to understand the mechanics of how we function, how energy is embodied. So for example, in death, in order to have a positive death, the body has to be a vortex embodying a positive vibrational frequency in order for it to have the proper speed for it to begin to detach from the physical body through the crown like a pine cone and go into the next dimensional plane. And that's the tunnel that you're talking about. Having had a near-death experience, you see that white light at the tunnel, and you go through it. And depending on your vibrational frequency, you will be presented with all kinds of things at that moment. So it's interesting, you were able to see that tunnel and get information on that. And that's very accurate from the physics perspective, the physics of death, literally. You need to have that vibrational frequency. We are vortices. And when our vortex isn't moving, we don't move. We get trapped. Sometimes we become ghosts, or aspects of ourselves become ghosts in this dimensional plane. So the powerful thing about being open to the unknown is that you begin to understand laws that navigate this realm in a much more profound way. And so you were able to tap into that. And many people can do that as they begin to peel those layers. So it's incredibly important.
So would you say, Geraldine, that science is spirituality?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's how I see it.
Yeah. The deeper you go down science, you will be met with spirituality and the question of consciousness. And that's where things get a little shaky for many people in the scientific field, including, physicists and mathematics. They begin to understand that not everything can be compartmentalized in the current laws that are existing here, right? And there are much more things, right? The metaphysics that begin to explain the quantum field. And this is where we begin to look at infinite possibilities, And so the deeper you go down spirituality, you will also be met with the question of consciousness. And you need to understand the physics. You need to understand the architecture of reality. When you're really getting into a deep spirituality, you have to understand the natural laws of the universe. Because you understand that as an organism connected to the collective, we are abiding by those natural laws of the universe. Those are really the things that move this organism through the earth experiences, which can be this hologram that we're kind of navigating,
I love it.
So I'd like to ask just a simple question, like from Shahira. When you say to your clients, do the work, because this is something that I say the same thing to my clients, and I know that in my own experience in this lifetime, I'm doing the work continuously. I'm continuously, I'll bring people into my space to do hypnosis sessions, etc., etc. What would you say to anybody? What's a starting point besides coming to see people like ourselves? What would a starting point be, or a daily thing to do from doing the work? Or
Okay.
Yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah, my golden question is, when was the last time you got really triggered? When did you really get worked up? When did you get so frustrated and it seems like you're not yourself anymore because you're either so angry, so sad, so it's this, there's something happened, and they always have some kind of trigger. Like, this is a daily thing. Nobody cannot answer this question. Everybody has an answer. Either they got stuck in traffic, and like, for example, let me give you that's a very nice example. Actually, one of my clients almost killed herself in traffic because somebody cut her off, and she decided to do the same on a highway. She ran after this truck, huge truck, and she decided to cut off the truck, which was not a very smart decision if you are like on 100 mile in an hour and you have a small car, and that's a very big car. That's a very irrational decision. And she almost got herself killed. And okay, I'm like, okay, that's a very nice trigger. Let's dig deeper into it. Let's do more work. Why exactly did you get mad about? And then we ask more questions. Why and how and when, and how did you make this, how did that make you feel, and what did you find in your body? And guess what? Her dad used to shut her up when she was little. And she was cut off all of her childhood not to speak up about herself. And it's very much the same incident.
So she was cut off by the truck, and it just brought up all those old feelings.
Truck, yes, went cut her off. She just shut her up. Just shut up, just like her dad did.
Yes.
And we're like, okay, so let's go in there and do some work there.
And you asked. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Well, another thing when you're talking about that, you ask how you can do it on your own. When you ask your client what triggered you, when you're not with a therapist, with a hypnotist, with anyone helping you, one of the best advices I remember is that everybody that you look at is a mirror of who you are. So if they have done something that is setting you off, instead of looking at the blame game to them, what did it do to you? Why did that do that trigger to me? And so when you don't have someone helping you, you're helping yourself, going, that's a mirror. Something about that has triggered something within me. And that's kind of the same way to do your own self-work without a therapist helping you. You start going in there and going, why? What's going on? And set your intention that you want to find out what that trigger is and sit with it quietly. Stop the noise around you. And that's part of going in to help start cleaning some of your blocks that you have to do it by yourself. If you need to get through some of that, it can help you, I think.
Yes, absolutely, Laura. Absolutely. You got, you know what? Asking the right questions is the key here. It's not about answer. Don't go there to find answer. Just ask the right questions. And this is what I always do with my clients. We go through the healing, but I give them the tools to do it themselves, because most of us growing up, nobody taught us that. They taught us a lot of math, a lot of geography, a lot of history, but nobody taught, at least me, nobody taught me how to connect to myself and find the deeper meaning of my feelings. And in my generation, you just, oh, hey, get distracted, watch some TV, take a walk, let's go to the club. And this is not the way to go, because this is just postponing the work. And speaking of mirrors, I had yesterday, I had a very simple conversation with my client, and he said that one of his subordinates, she's not doing the right work. She keeps typing the wrong document, and he gets so frustrated. And you know what? This is a very normal reaction. Okay, this is a subordinate, you taught her, and this is like the third time she does the work. And of course you will be angry. But no, again, there are lots of options at this point. Why you got so frustrated? What's the deal here? Where's the mirror? What exactly she reflected on you? And we dug deeper into it. And again, we found, a little bit of inferiority feeling. Now she's not listening to me. Now my self-worth in risk. You know what I mean? So it's not a matter of the other person. It's a matter of, okay, what's really going on inside of you, and what exactly do you need to heal? Like, it's very easy to heal a scratch on the body. You clean it, you cleanse it, and you put a Band-Aid, you put some, antibacterial, and you're done. The thing about our psyche, you cannot find the wound. It's very hard to find the wound. Once you find the wound, okay, let's heal it and work on it. And finding the wound, it's all about asking the right questions.
So Shahira, you do your finding the wounds as such through hypnosis. So do you, Laura, but you do it completely differently, Michelle, and so do you, Geraldine. Not so?
Yeah. So
yeah, Michelle, did you want to go? Go ahead.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Gosh, for me, it's tuning into the body first, because the body doesn't lie. That's one thing I've come to recognize and realize on a daily basis with my clients, is that, they would, and also watching how the subconscious programmings are happening as you're talking to them. Because, I could ask them a question about, again, a relationship, and I'd say, well, do you really, really, really love that person? Yes, of course I do. Yes. I'm like, well, can you tell your head that? Because your head's telling me no right now. So it's being really in tune to that observation, when we were able to connect with the eyes.
Sorry, Michelle, you mean your heart. You tell your heart that, your head's saying that, but your heart's
saying...
Well,
the head, I'm asking a question and they're saying yes. Now, we're obviously taught that this is yes and this is no. So absolutely. So they're convincing, they're trying to basically... I have a great saying, which I think is awesome, which one of my very first teachers taught me in South Africa. Don't put sugar on shit. Now, often I find clients tell me what they think I want to hear. And sorry, I hope I haven't offended anybody with that, but it's a great saying, because, you put sugar on shit, and you put sugar and it's like, oh, well, I'm just going to tell you what you think I want to hear. But then the head saying to me, yes, of course I love my husband. Of course I do. But the unconscious is telling me, no, I don't right now in this moment, in this present moment. No, what you're asking me, of course I don't. And then the liver would flare up, because I'm tuning into their bodies. And so then we go and we dive deeper. And it's actually, like Shahira was saying, it's in the example she was giving with her client, it's actually never about that other person. It's about, for me, the way I work, it's the old feeling that shows up in the body. And it could be, I'll say to a client, we could call it rejection, we could call it abandonment. It could be sitting as shame. And I find that most of us, and 99.9% of the time when I'm working with a client who has shame, rejection, abandonment, it sits in the lower half of the body, in between the sort of sacral chakra and the root chakra, and it in the hips and the lower back. And so as soon as we start going into the body, and I'll use a female as an example. I'd say to him, I can feel there's something in your right fallopian tube, and we'll go in, I'll take her into the body, And it's as simple as closing their eyes, and they go into it, and I'll say, do you know what it looks like? Can you picture it? And then we'll start working with colors, and then we'll start working with the feelings. And then I will ask the questions, and I'll say to them, well, I'll give them some guidance. I'll say, well, I'm being shown that there's something when you were around about 2 or 5 years old. And then we'll bring that little person as a picture, as a hologram, into their hearts. And it's an old feeling. It's just an old feeling of when the father perhaps came home from work, and as a 2-year-old, this little girl ran up to their dad, and the dad sort of went, honey, hi, and then pushed them out the way. And that would come up as a feeling of rejection or abandonment. And then they just have to allow it and acknowledge it, and then connect with that little 2-year-old and say, it's okay. It's okay. And sometimes it's just in that little statement, it's okay, or you're safe, or we are safe, that for me just shifts the vibration of the feeling and the person. And then they realize, actually, it's not about the husband. It's an old feeling that they're sitting with. The husband is just showing them a way of feeling abandoned or being rejected or not being loved in that moment. Hence, they like, the head goes, well, yes, of course I love him, but right now in this moment, I think he's the biggest arse, actually. So what I'm realizing, it's not personal, but it's going into the body. And yet, as adults, we often take things very personally, and we don't know where the feeling or what the feeling was from when we were younger. Because I was most certainly raised, stop crying. Stop crying. What are you crying for? Well, all I ever did as an adult from the ages of 20 odd, I cried. And then I was told I was emotional. So then I suppressed it. And then for me, I built up energetic walls. And what I mean by that is my fight, flight, or fright response was very much like, oh, you're not going to come into my heart. You're not going to get to know Michelle, because I need to stay protected. And then building on top of that, just living the South African way that we did in the last 20 to 25 years, I've come to realize by living in this country that I'm still working through a lot of my PTSD. I just pushed it aside. But yes, it's connecting into the heart, because the heart never lies. The body always, I don't know how you feel, Geraldine, but the body's always talking to me, always talking to me. It's the stories that we've learned to tell ourselves, and we can bypass that conscious mind and get into the subconscious and the unconscious. And then there's the different levels of working with the past lives too, which is, a whole different level, a whole different conversation, I feel. How do you work, Geraldine? Do you resonate with what I've said or shared?
So absolutely. So, when the soul literally makes a decision to come into the physical body, it's attaching to its ancestral lineage by resonance. So immediately, the moment that the soul is embodied into the fetus and is developing in the womb, that's when it starts to program all of those emotions. And how I work with my clients is that because I see the multidimensional body, what you can see is colors, heaviness stuck within the body, within the body. They're literally not allowing that life force to move through the body. It becomes stagnant because of certain thought forms that have now manifested in the physical. And so you can clearly see that. But what you find in that kind of heavy energy and information is that you can trace that back all the way to the womb, because from the womb to the age of 7 is when we're primarily programmed, when we are heavily, again, we are picking up the thoughts and belief systems from our mother, from our father, and all of them, we are kind of embodying them in some way or another. They become our understanding of the world and how we learn how to navigate our emotions. So from there is the way we perceive the feminine and masculine, the mother, the father, and that's within us because we are a fractal of that same information, the feminine and masculine aspect of our bodies. So wherever we are programmed or blocked or have suppression or rejection of aspects of ourselves, that's where the information is going to be stuck, on that side of the body. So if I see clients that have a lot of heaviness or emptiness, or for example, they're not able to become aware of their multidimensional body on some part of their body, it feels empty, disconnected, this is where they have a lot of information that's stored. And we're constantly storing information 360 degrees. We're like sponges, and everything is actually affecting the body. Even what people are doing behind you have the ability to come into the body, because subconsciously we are so unaware of ourselves sometimes that we take on other people, especially as empaths. We take on other people's emotions, we take on other people's belief systems, and sometimes, you know, in healing, this is very important. When we're healing, sometimes we become emotional with the client. We are completely pulling in and exchanging that information, you know, with us. And so all of that becomes stored in the body as well. And it becomes stored in the areas of the body in which that vibrational frequency exists. We are a range of frequency from the lower, the root, to the third eye. And the first three chakras are what navigate the physical plane. So this is where all of the emotions, whether we feel safe, what we're exchanging and what we're creating, all of those things are a part of these lower chakras. So this is where all the programming is. And so when I work with my clients, this is where the multidimensional body, it's not just in the physical, it's their entire multidimensional field. It's what they're in resonance with that begins to kind of, play an influence in the events, the cyclical patterns, because what you find is that they're actually cyclical patterns that you're bringing down from the mother and father. And usually the soul that comes in, oh, go ahead, Michelle.
No, sorry, I just, sorry to interrupt you, but what you're saying, sometimes I found in the work that I do, I had a client the once who had stuff going on with his right knee. And in the session, I said to him, this is your grandfather's 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 grandfather's. This is his energy. And I said, I'm seeing the days of the musket, you know, in the war. And
exactly.
And he went and he did and clearly, consciously, he couldn't, he wasn't digesting it. He's like, oh, this doesn't make sense. What do you mean? And then he went into the ayahuasca journey, and he couldn't wait to come and phone me and say, you were so right. He says, I saw my knee, and I saw my grandfather, and I saw the energy of him being in the war, and my knee had taken on the feeling, the energy, it was just fascinating, you know. So that again is exactly what you're saying, the intergenerational patterns of sometimes what we store in a cellular memory, most times.
Exactly. And the beautiful thing about this information, you know, for those that are on a healing journey, is that as a soul, you came here. Do you know how many things in the universe had to fall into place to create your soul, your essence, which is a combination of stardust, energy, vibrational frequency, and fractals of all of the collective in order to create your journey, your specific journey, with all of the sufferings, all of the pains, all the traumas that you're experiencing have come in a very specific way where you can come into the lineage and expand and heal that lineage. Literally, you have that opportunity to do so. And so when we are neglecting the physical body, neglecting our emotions, not doing the healing work as we go, you know, we embody all of that collective thing. And this is why now with epigenetics, we understand that we are not married to our genetics. Like, we don't need to take on that cancer that ran in the family. We don't need to take on that illness. We can begin to change that and embody by embodying different patterns, different connection with the body, different connection with the emotions that are not a match to that anymore. And this is the beautiful thing in the reincarnation cycle, that every soul that comes in comes equipped with a vibrational frequency that can expand that and heal that lineage. You know, and we can heal our own body from any kind of illness.
It's excellent, because so many people don't realize that. And as my guides keep on saying, you have the ability to create a dead cell to life. And you just don't realize who you are. And they said it's time for people to actually learn about their 3D. This is a 3D that you're in this actual incarnation for. So if your 3D body is not functioning well, what is it that you are not doing or talking to it about? So you have to address it. You've got to look at your organs. It's your body. You've been with it for how many years? Don't you even know what each organ looks like, where they are in the body, and what they need for optimum health? Because if you want your spirit side, if you want to call it that, to be able to do what it needs to do for you to do your mission, well, you're doing it through the 3D. So that physical needs to be in optimum health for the spiritual to be in optimum health as such. It's actually a what do you call it? A synergy that's should be really beautifully, melded or whatever you want together. I think. What do you think, Laura?
I think you've got it exactly right. It's all the energy blocked in our bodies. I mean, I simplify it. You guys use it very complicated, but it's exactly what it is. It's just your emotions blocked. It's all those past energy. Yes. In what I do, I always follow just follow the injury too. A lot of times you follow the injury like you guys were talking about, and it always comes back to the emotions blocked right there in the injury. So it's fascinating.
Well, you know what, girls? I think that we're going to wrap it up because it's going to be quite late for you, Shahira, because I know you're on a timeline. And I know, Geraldine, you said you've only got X amount of time. And Laura, I can see it's getting dark for you. But I would love it if we could have this again and actually help people, because I know they've got so many questions and we've only just touched the tip of the iceberg. And I think you guys are amazing. All of you are held in such high esteem, mostly from the internet, from not knowing you as such. Laura, at least I had Machu Picchu with you and Peru, which was phenomenal what happened there. We had the weirdest things happening to us, out of this world experiences. And Michelle, of course, the abilities that you have, phenomenal. Shahira, you've helped me immensely with your knowledge. And Geraldine, I'm only just getting to know you. But as I said, when I watched your session 133, as soon as I saw that session, there was an instant connection. And I thought, that's my girl. That's my girl.
What a gift. What a gift. I want to thank you for the idea, for the inspiration to bring all of these beautiful souls together. It is an honor to be here amongst you guys. You guys are incredible. Really, truly.
I feel the same. Shahira, brace yourself. We're coming to Egypt when the borders are open.
I know.
That will be absolutely fantastic.
2026.
Amazing.
It's so powerful.
That's too far, though. That's just way too far. But yeah, but Jill, let me suggest that anybody would watch the video and they have a question, just type comments underneath the video. So when we meet again, so we can discuss all these comments, and if they any question comes up in your brain, just put it in the comments and we can discuss it next time.
That's good. And girls, if you could please, in our panel and our WhatsApp, could you please send me all your contact details so that I can put it on this for everybody so that they can connect with whoever they resonate with. So just wrapping up, Michelle, you do energy healing, you do medium work, readings, and trauma counseling, couple counseling, and you do the channeling with the Council of Eight. Is that correct?
Yes. I'm just going to change the word counseling because I don't refer to myself as a counselor anymore. That's a background I've come from. But I think it's a word that some people can maybe get a little bit maybe fixated on. But yes, it's reading the body, it's reading the field. Once I'm out in the field, it's helping people to go into whatever trauma, whatever feelings that they're feeling, and help them to get it out of their body and help them to feel lighter and help their hearts to expand. Yeah.
Find the joy.
Find the joy. Absolutely.
Great. Shahira.
Well, I do introspective hypnosis. I do part therapy. I do spiritual journey. I'm a medium, and I'm ready to answer any question.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Laura.
And I also do introspective hypnosis, and I do channeling. I post my writings on a YouTube channel so that people can hear those writings as well when I have messages. And most of my messages are for healers, people on the path of healing. So it's applicable for everybody, seekers and healers. So.
Geraldine.
Yep, I do what I call holographic hypnotherapy and DNA reprogramming, and yeah, I'm happy to serve in any way that can help.
Well, that's wonderful. And as I was talking to all of you, I was told we are skywalkers, but we are currently walking the earth together. But don't ever forget, we are actually skywalkers. So ladies, thank you so much for joining my panel today.
Thank you.
And love and kisses to you and to our audience. And I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Yes.
Bye.